Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Sheriff Nehls. Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Baker, Mr. Perdue, Mr. Baker was, D'Esposito just said, talked about grants, how we can, you mentioned streamlining grants, transparency, efficiency. Mr. Perdue, we talked a little bit about that with some of the other. This is Congress. This is Washington, D.C. Those words really don't exist in Washington, D.C., talking about streamlining and transparency. It certainly doesn't exist with this administration. Mr. Winters, you oversee associations of counties, right? How many counties in this great country of ours? I have an idea, but why don't you share with us?
About 3,000.
3,000, that's exactly right. 3,000 counties across the entire country. Did you know that in 2020, Joe Biden won 509 of them, 16% of counties. I think it would be good food, good thought here would you get back with me and let me know about these grants and how many of those grants, these grants that people are applying for, are going to the 509 counties, the lowest number ever. A president wins the election, he won it with just 509 counties, 16%. I'm kind of curious what it would look like to see where these grants, these discretionary grants are going. Maybe you can help me out with that a little later on. I tell you, Mr. Baker, I thank you for being here. I chair the railroads, right? The subcommittee on rails, and I love it. I love Chrissy grants. I think they're good. I believe it helps the Class 2s, Class 3s, and I like that robust funding. I've spoken to the Administrator Bowes on this, and I support that because I think that it's all about safety. But we don't talk too much about the Grade Crossing Elimination Act, the grade crossing. Now, how much money is in there for the grade crossings?
The grade separation program has $600 million a year guaranteed.
Is that enough?
That would do about 20 or 30 a year, and there are thousands that.
Listen, I had a hearing on this about a month or so ago. We were talking about, and I hear from all the individuals involved, and they said that's where the real danger lies. In cars, people going through the gates. Some of them don't have gates. Individuals being run over by trains, all sorts of issues at these grade crossings. So I like the idea, and I'm assuming you would support that, maybe even you, Ms. O'Leary, that we need to do something about actually addressing an issue. And the issue is, I think there's 220,000 grade crossings across the entire country. So we should be addressing those. We should be really, really passionate about that. Would you all agree with that? Yeah?
I would certainly agree with that. About 95%, and I know you know this, about 95% of the fatalities on the rail industry are grade crossings and trespassing. And it's unfortunately expensive, so it's a real challenge for the country. But separating the crossing, the safest crossing is one that doesn't exist. So.
I'm with you. Ms. O'Leary, what do you think?
I agree with you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Perdue, I'm from the great state of Texas, buddy. I think, did you say you're getting 1%? Is it a little over 1?
That's correct, just over 1% of the distribution.
You know where we are, the great state of Texas? A lot of people come to us too, buddy.
It's not much higher than that.
A little less than 2. Little less than 2. We gained 2 seats in the House because everybody's leaving these other states, coming to your great state, coming to my great state. They're fleeing the oppression. And our formula is around 10%. And we're getting less than 2. How do you feel about that? Do you think that DOT is distributing these grants fairly? Would you say they're distributing them fairly?
I would say thus far, it's certainly not commensurate with population, lane miles, vehicle miles traveled. Definitely not. Our formula allocation is around 5%, and we've only seen 1% of grant awards.
Well, I appreciate all the panel for being here, and it would just be a treat for the American people to see Congress working for them. We talked about cost overruns. I think Rouser was talking in North Carolina about let's just say $1 million project. Now after 3 years, all the red tape, NEPA, all this other stuff, environmental impact, it's 1.2. Who covers the other 200 million? In your testimony, I think it's the state DOTs and the local stakeholders. Is that right?
Yeah, Congressman, that's exactly right. I mean, for state DOT, we have to cover the cost increases and, balance our finances. I would say for local governments, local communities, other entities that are much smaller, it's very difficult to
And
manage.
I would make an assumption because of the inefficiency, some of the projects, they say we can't do it anymore. We can't afford to come up with the cost overrun. Can't do it. Just
That has
eliminate it.
happened.
Shameful. We can do better. I yield back.